So, originally I wanted to focus only on the last two missions, but then I thought that it wouldn't be interesting enough, so I decided to add a second attempt to mission 9 and the Golden Gift campaign to make the video a bit meatier. Still, if you're interested to just some specific missions, the chapters are below. With that out of the way, greetings my spooky lads. These are the rules, in the upper corner the link for the playlist if you want to see more. Let's start with the boring one. In case you haven't seen the first episode about the Greek campaign, go watch please. Mission 9 is the only level thus far in which I had to break one of my own rules. I had to lower the difficulty from hard to normal. It still stings to this day. So, after all the experience I gathered making this series, I decided to give it a second try. As a change of strategy, I make a serious effort to avoid losses before reaching the ram. If I manage to bring enough men to the final confrontation, I could be able to beat the defenders. Even a single loss becomes an instant reload. I try to assault the second boulder, but the enemy forces are simply too much. So I make the awful strategic choice to leave it, allowing more enemy reinforcements to come later. But if I'm fast enough, I may avoid the worst. Near the ram, I only make the heroes fight for as long as possible. Most of the enemy forces are mythic creatures, so the normal soldiers would only be able to do minimal damage. Chiron gets attacked from a phoenix and wins, but because I don't consider him illegal, I reload and position him in a safer spot. Instead, the reinforcements get attacked by the phoenix. They win but suffer losses, and I just have to take it, because I don't have any other unit capable of hitting flying creatures. As I am making my first attempt, the units get automatically buffed. Let's see. Fate seems to be on my side. A slew of enemy reinforcements makes me change my mind. Second attempt. I try to beat some enemies away, going for a divide et impera tactic. Theoretically, I could destroy the ram with just my ballista and some archers, but there isn't enough time on the clock for that. So I prepare for the major clash, this time with the maximum amount of units possible. But it's simply not enough. I just don't have the raw numbers to win, so this mission remains still unbeaten on hard. It's time to dive into the Golden Gift campaign with Brock's journey, where Brock himself talks with a familiar face for us. Skull tells him that his dwarf brother Either is planning to build the golden boar alone, a gift for the god Freyr. Since that was Brock's original idea, he feels betrayed and decides to go to the Dwarven Forge to make the gift himself. For those unaware, the Golden Gift is a mini campaign originally available on the official site and then added to the extended edition. Anyway, to win the mission, I must create 4 ox carts, then transport them and Brock to the extreme east of the map. I meet 2 giants playing Kick the Dwarf, jerks. I decide to eliminate the heroes of Ragnarok since they are gained by casting a mythic power. Usually, I rush for the farms, but since there is an abundance of cows here, I decide to harvest them. There are multiple ways to reach the goal, some are easier than others, like one is opening a secure way by helping a Norse warrior get back his cows, that I just slaughtered for their meat. Well, that's a dumb reset. At the time, I genuinely believed that this would bring me a quick and easy victory, so I decided to save them. The cutscene with the giants doesn't seem to trigger well in this time around, okay? In any case, I give the cows back to the warrior, and he opens a portal to the underworld, which I can't use because it's a mythic power, so I did all of this for nothing. Meaning I had to brute force my way through Fostag's domain. This will take a while. In reality I didn't have to, but you'll see why. And I lose my rider, just to rub it in. Anyway, because of this, I start to build up my economy. At least I got to meet Orlik Dwarf Rider. To each his own, I guess. And I get rid of the giants that abuse the dwarf. I found out I can only have a limited amount of dwarves. It seems to be around 42. Cool, but also not, since now I have a bottleneck for my gathering operations. At least the fishing ships can be infinite. The longbow can transport 5 units. I never knew that. That's because it's a lie. You lied to me, game. A little foreshadowing of my own ineptitude. In any case, once I'm ready, I attack Fostag's territory. I followed my experience with the Norse campaign and composed my army of Ersi and throwing axemen. In hindsight, this turned out to be a mistake. The enemy uses much more cavalry this time around. I eventually understood that and added Ulfsarks, but if I had done that sooner, I would experience much more smoother fights. Once I destroy the outer walls and get into the pass, the frost storms start to happen. They freeze my troops for 60 seconds. They do receive a 99% defense against any attack, but makes progression a slog. It quickly becomes the medieval equivalent of trench warfare, with defensive walls and towers. I had to fight constantly even for a few meters of progress. And even when I do manage to advance a bit, the eye casts the frost power, stalling my progress even more. After 20 whole minutes of constant fighting, I do manage to demolish the walls. I was so frustrated that I actually decided to ignore the main objective and hunt down any of Vostok's holding until I wiped him out of the map. And you know what is the worst part? All of this was completely avoidable. Had I had the patience to actually explore, I would have found out there is a much less defended zone, shorter and easily accessible, just a bit to the southeast of the warrior who was looking for his cows. At that point I just tilted and sent cards plus Brock to the east to win. It's time to watch the other side of the story with Idris' journey, where he receives a similar tale from Skald, this time making Brock look like the greedy brother who wants the glory of the gift all for himself. I must help Idris reach the north with 6 dwarves to win. As a first move, I get rid of the Hills of Ragnarok. Then I notice, oh shoot, I can train Wolfsarks, meaning that I soft blocked myself. Welp, that was another dumb reset. So, I allow myself only to make them build the dock, and do nothing else. I'm thinking of rushing this mission. There are 2 warring bandit clans in this map. I must sneak the ships beyond their warring fleets. The first attempt ends up in disaster. I retry with some heavy longboats. I get further, but it's still not enough. Third attempt, this time with a bigger fleet. I managed to reach a coast. It's very close to my target. I decide to land the men while the ships distract the enemies, but there are units waiting on the shore, and they slaughter everyone. Fourth attempt. This time maybe I have enough ships to deal with coastal defenses too? Nope, got intercepted. Fifth attempt. I try to sneak nearby yellow space. It kinda works. Most of my ships reach the other side, but the enemy focuses so much on the transport that I had to land people inside before it sinks. I'm so close. I make the deck build another transport plus 3 raiding ships for security. I go on the assault, but there are too many defenders. I had to find another way. Exploring a bit, I find a peninsula. I suspect that it's connected to the exit. Reloading, I transport the dwarves there. I hope this works. Sending A3 to explore further, it seems there are no enemies around, except for bears. Turns out this is the intended way, as the game shows a scripted fight between the 2 bands. Only one fire giant belonging to red survives. This is my chance. I try to sneak, then it kills one of the 6 required dwarves to progress. After making sure that the fire giant goes extinct, and downing a Ferris wolf brood, the mission ends. It's time to face the fight at the forge. I must aid Brock at crafting the golden bowl before Adri does. To achieve that, I must take control of the plenty vault at the center of the map, then hold it until a timer runs out. Interestingly, the vault is unique in this mission since it doesn't actually grant extra resources once captured. Once the Heroes of Ragnarok build the city center, I get rid of them. I can make normal units here. I take things slow. As long as I manage to capture the vault before the timer runs out, I'm good. Plus, I don't suffer from any attack whatsoever. With less than 5 minutes remaining, I go and take control of the forge. Now I must hold it for 10 minutes to win. I wall off the barracks I made. The constant recall of troops should be enough to resist. The gold at my base runs out. I send dwarves to explore, but there are many trolls defending the scattered mines. I had to find an isolated patch. And of course the AI undermines my walls using the undermine god power, ruins everything and overwhelms me. Reloading, I prepare myself better, with some more houses for extra population, plus some towers for fire support. A particularly strong force arrives. It wipes out most of my army. The towers held the wall too, but I also don't manage to reinforce the position, and I lose control of the forge with less than 50 seconds remaining, resetting the timer. Reloading, I build some walls. They will be destroyed by the undermine power, but I just need some more seconds. The enemy arrives, but the few standing forces and extra towers I built manage to hold off until the golden gift is completed. Loki throws away the mask, revealing himself and steals the gift. The brothers must unite and recover it. It's time to set things right inside Loki's temple. The brothers have found the location of the golden gift. They must retrieve it from the clutches of the trickster god. The start is as usual, building up my economy. This mission is particularly favorable to this kind of run since I don't have any mythic power. To gain them, I must destroy Loki's temples around the map. I wall off the pass at my south. This should defend me from surprise attacks. I'm too slow. Loki's army arrives and I have very little defenses. I demolish a temple nearby my base and build a market on its ruins. I'm going to use the reliable strategy of spamming caravans. Then I do something dumb. I decide to wall off my settlement with houses, despite having plenty of gold to use. I don't remember why I did that. This fight was particularly brutal. Not only I have to deal with a substantial force, Loki has evoked the Norse dragon Midhogg. While I survive, I lose all of my distance infantry, which quickly becomes a problem now that Loki is intensifying the attacks. Plus, something I didn't notice at the time is how I exhausted my gold reserve due to a lack of gold mines and enough caravans. So now I have to survive with a very limited recall. Even if I did survive, I just don't have enough time to build walls and another army arrives. I have to constantly cut the attackers with my oxen while the city center slowly kill them all. Another big attack forces me to reload. I decided to save a bit and create some walls mixed with the houses already standing. And of course there is a tiny gap I didn't notice. Reloading. Still not perfect, but it does delay the attack enough to allow me to survive and stabilize myself. Then I witnessed something that surprised me. Enemy villagers coming to gather resources even if I already secured the position. They must have run out of their camps. Once I'm strong enough, it's just a matter of finding the enemy base, secure a position nearby for barracks, destroy everything on my path, and reach the golden gift, ending the campaign. It's time to focus on what you all have been waiting for. So, welcome back. As usual, before moving out, I get rid of any mythic unit. Gargarensis uses the meteor power before even one of my units touches the ground, so he just ends up damaging his own structures. I clear up the fortresses around the starting city center. In my laziness, I forgot about the militia and lost one villager and a catapult. Once built, I must rescue 15 Atlantean prisoners to win. The start is as usual, as I build up my economy. I send the heroes to explore and clear out some isolated defenses. I get a surprise assault consisted of 4 cyclopses. They must be dropped by a transport ship. Not threatening, but annoying. Plus, I like how the humans they throw aren't just eye candy, but an actual projectile that can damage and makes trees fall. While walling off the main gates, a substantial army arrives. It's manageable, but this means I can't stay still anymore. It's time to gear up the forces. To ease pressure a bit, I destroy some production here and there. Another huge attack, but his doom is close. Once I'm strong enough, it's time for the cleanup. I got really bored during this mission, so as a personal objective I decided to save all the prisoners instead of the bare minimum. First batch of prisoners freed, 5 more to go. To better hold the position, I take control of their city center. I also destroy the enemy walls, allowing me faster reinforcements. The next parts are quite straightforward now that I am safe, so in rapid succession, I demolish a fortress to free the prisoners. Amara, I appreciate your warrior spirit, but now I have to send a transport ship to get you back, you silly lass. I kill 3 hydras, get Amara back from that awkward positioning, gets out and forced to pull back a bit, find the position of Castor, Arcanto's son, Candidratto, freed the last 2 batch of prisoners, found a nifty alternative start with an easily defendable bottleneck. Counted the prisoners, either I've lost 1 during the level or there are actually 29 total prisoners on the map, and ultimately sent all of them on the safe island, winning the mission. It's time for what we have been waiting for, to take a side at a place in my dreams. The Atlantean forces are being crushed by Gargarensis' army. To aid him even further, Kronos animates a statue of Poseidon, granting him an exceptional weapon. Arcantos makes sure that his son and civilians get to safety. He'll put an end to all of this alone. And as the history books told us, the magical flying hippos came to the rescue, aided by the Canadian Land Army, composed of bears that shoot lasers from the eyes. What, you don't believe me? It's right in the book of stuff that definitely happened somewhere in history. Look, here's my direct source. This historically accurate force managed to defeat the statue in glorious combat without needing any divine help. Right? Ignore the timeline. It's lying. It's a bug on YouTube that makes it look like the video is longer just to show more ads. And this is how I totally managed to beat the game as an atheist. Much obliged, fellow scary guys. If you enjoyed the video, please keep on watching, because I'm just joking. What I did was verify that the statue could actually be beaten without needing to transform Arcantos in his ascended form and not softlock myself. Now that I know, it's time to tackle this mission for real. I'm helped by 2 NPC factions, one Norse and another Egyptian. However, they don't actually help at all because they're passive. They only give me some mythic units from time to time, which I immediately kill because I can't use them. I had to build my economy fast. The attacks get real strong very soon here. As a first strategy, I think of walling 2 nearby passes. The enemy can only come from them. And while I'm right, I don't have the men to defend these positions, so I scrap the idea immediately. The Norse village has made a healing spring that glitched right in the middle. I'll do my best to ignore it. I don't manage to defeat the first attack wave and I start making a mess. Right in time for a second one. I've already lost. Time for a second attempt. This time I try to bolster my army early. I notice how both Green and Cyan aren't using their gold mines. Good for future plans. The silliness of the AI gives me an idea. I could bear their attacks to my allies just enough until I can defend myself. I put my theory to the test and beat an attack to Science base. And for the most part, it works. I do it again, but there are too many enemies. Restarting is necessary. Third attempt. Instead of using them to attack, I make my starting force go inside the city center. Every unit inside of it boosts its damage, while also pulling any attack towards my allies. I also noticed how the enemy tends to focus on my faraway villagers. I could exploit this to my advantage. At the 20th minute mark, Gargarensis gets rid of green. In 5 minutes he'll do the same thing to cyan. Good thing to know, since this attempt is ruined. At the 4th attempt, I'm becoming desperate. I will off the starting towers. Perhaps with a big enough shooting line and baiting I could survive until civilization. I managed to distract the first 2 waves. I hope this works. Seems to be delivering enough DPS. I'm becoming strong enough that the baiting isn't necessary anymore. The Petrobolos are still an annoyance. I have to risk my troops to get rid of them. Despite my defenses, I'm still vulnerable to the quirky tactics of the AI, such moving the troops south away from my towers. I have to reload, to completely surround myself with walls. It's good, but I still need some time. Hopefully, I have to beat the attacks for the last time. Damn it! The Petrobolos do too much damage. Reload. Besides the walls, I make some extra towers. I also don't wall myself quite enough. This shall distract the attackers. It was a very precarious situation, but it worked. The Norsemen die. I have little time left before I'm alone. As another attack is coming, the Egyptians fall. This is it. If I survive, the next phase shall begin. My citadel is holding. I also expand the wall to secure the gold mine and demolish some for faster mobility. I acted too soon. Other forces arrive and I get overwhelmed. Reloading and taking things slowly, I get rid of the stragglers. I survived. After fortifying the position and verify that this is enough, I can finally build up my economy. The walls aren't impregnable to Ethereal Alliance though. Yes, I did check. No, there isn't any hole. Now that I'm strong enough, it's time to pass on to the second phase. While they're not objectives, I want 1. To destroy every enemy production structures and 2. Take control of all city centers available. The first is because I don't want distractions once I'm going to fight the living Poseidon statue. And the second one is to add the maximum amount of troops possible. I try to wall off the Healing Fountain. Just because I can't use it doesn't mean that I should. But enemies come. I'll just have to ignore it then. Nothing much to say on the assaults. I steamroll whatever I can, pull back the troops to defend the base when attacked, try to avoid the plenty walls as much as possible, and when I encounter fights I can't win, I make Arcantos go back at the base. I do this until I reach this lower valley. Here is where all the enemy assaults have to pass. If I fortify this bit, I can conquer the other city centers in peace. It's also the only spot where I can't avoid the plenty vault, but considering how developed my economy is, I think that's fine. So I do just that. Before moving out, I want to have a clear idea of what I'm dealing with, so I use some horsemen to explore the last enemy base. Around 8 fortresses, 6 barracks, 4 temples and 1 city center. It looks manageable. Can I take a moment and say how awesome was this mission? The constant threats, the refining of my strategies, the back and forth between me and the AI. It was incredible. Many interesting trials for the strategist in me, a test of will and brain power. Basically, I truly felt mentally challenged tackling this level. Just beautiful. Not as challenging in figuring out how this donkey got stuck. Seriously, how? There is absolutely nothing that could have put it here. I could do nothing but sacrifice him to get some population limit back. Anyway, once I'm ready, I go for their last bastion. I make sure to destroy all the buildings, while not attracting the statue. I also destroy his wonder because, well, why not? Once I destroy the last city center and take possession of it, the last phase begins. Kill the statue. I take a deep breath and go. The statue slaughters my melee troops with its siren attack. The only ones I can rely on are the archers. Seems that the only valuable strategy is to distract the statue with my melee infantry while the archers shoot. As long as even a single soldier engages the statue in hand-to-hand combat, it will be distracted. It's working. The archers deal more damage than the statue can regenerate. But I do need to keep the production constant and fast, so I make 2 barracks nearby. To speed up things a bit, I make the villagers build some towers. I try to wall off the way to Tartarus to stop the mythic creatures that spawn, but there isn't enough space. I'll have to deal with them too. I think I've figured out the loop. Having another barrack at a certain distance makes so that when the statue kills one man, another one can take his place just in time. I also appreciate how much of a bro Jason was in this segment. For just 100 food and 50 gold, he'll tank the hits like a pro, easily surviving for 11 or 12 hits. The tension is palpable. I'm so close. After several minutes of constant fights, the statue falls, and I win the mission. As Gargarensis finally dies, and Atlantis sinks into the ocean, Singly sacrifices his life to save his people, Arcanthos rises once more, now as the Patreon god of all self-insert OCs. Farewell, you magnificent beast. That's quite it. Well, almost. Still have to beat the Atlantean campaign. I'm curious as much as you on how I'm going to deal with certain situations, but everything shall be revealed in due time. And for real now, thanks for watching my spooky lads. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, and do all that good jazz. See you next time.